Boston Bruins right now are playing at a level which I don't think anybody expected them to. Now, I get they went out and they ended up trying to fill some holes. Like, they ended up getting Lindholm. They ended up getting Zadorov. I know you lose DeBrusque, whatever. But this team right now, outside of David Pastrnak, is not producing. You only have two guys on the team over 10 points, Marchand and Pastrnak, the usuals. And then you go down to the goaltending, which I think is a big problem this year. You had the entire whatever with Jeremy Swayman in the offseason, which, by the way, great contract for both teams. I don't know why you couldn't do that July 2nd. Everybody expected him to get 8.5, and it didn't. Whatever. That's besides the point. Right now, he's at a 3.35 goals against an 8.88 save percentage, and his goals saved above expected is some of the worst in the entire league. So there's something going on here in Boston. They're still lacking that true number one center because right now, I know it's early, but Elias Lindholm is not getting the job done. I don't know what's going on with this team. If they get the third seed in the Atlantic, it's strictly because Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit, and Tampa are way too inconsistent to get that third spot.
Yeah, my thing with Boston is like they have a bunch of middle six and bottom six forwards on their team. Outside of Pastrnak, who's an elite forward. Marchand's still producing for his age. Outside of that, I think you got a bunch of bleh in the middle of that lineup, and they don't really have any depth scoring. And you can overcome that if you're getting elite goaltending like they have the last couple of years. And Swayman has looked really bad this year, and Korpisalo hasn't been much better.
And I actually think for Korpisalo, especially considering his numbers from last season with Ottawa, he's playing fairly well for a backup goalie. And if you watch Bruins games, he wins most of his games because it's almost like the defense is playing up for him, like you usually see when teams have their backups in that. But with the Boston Bruins, I would say you can look back on a couple different events as the downfall for this team. Number one, everybody knows the 2015 draft. You pass up on players like Matt Barzal, Kirill Kaprizov, all these guys who you had with 3 first-round picks. But let's say that was a decade ago, so it doesn't matter at this point because they have had success. 3 forwards who I think this team completely fumbled: Tyler Bertuzzi, Taylor Hall, Jake DeBrusque. You went out in the offseason, you brought in Nikita Zadorov because you're scared of the Florida Panthers and you think that he's going to be the answer when it comes to the playoffs, ups your physicality and allows you to not let guys like Sam Bennett walk all over you. And unfortunately, he's been a disaster. He leads the NHL in penalty minutes. He is just not getting their system. And it's honestly looking poor on the goaltending and on Jim Montgomery, but it's really just his inability to step up, Charlie McAvoy's inability to find his offensive game, and overall the defensive core is just in shambles when that wasn't the area you needed to fix. You had one of the best defensive cores in hockey last year. You needed wingers, you needed centers. You get Elias Lindholm, who is a borderline top line center, and then you don't address your top six like you were saying. They just have a bunch of middle six guys spread throughout their lineup. It's more management's fault than anything else why the Bruins are struggling right now.
You can't go into the season expecting to be contenders, expecting to see Justin Brazeau be this top 6 goal scorer. You can't go in with Mason Lohrei out there, which, by the way, Bruins fans love Mason Lohrei. I love Lohrei, but he is so young, and I think he has a lot of potential. And then you have, how do you pronounce, is it Matthew Poitras? Poitras, okay. Matthew Poitras. I think Elias Lindholm is a second-line center or could be a 1B. You saw it last year when he got dealt to Vancouver. He thrived in Vancouver, and it's not because – maybe it's because of the system or whatever in his skill set, but also because he was able to take a back seat and be that second-line center that he's meant to play. Like, he's not supposed to be this top center line driver where he puts up 85, 90 points a season outside of one season, which he played in Calgary when he played with Johnny Gaudreau and
that year that entire Calgary Flames team.
Yeah, everybody never put up better seasons besides that.
I think a big thing for the Bruins too is, like I was saying with their defensive unit, a lot of these top line guys like Pastrnak are down in production, Lindholm's down in production because their power play sucks. And it's because of their defense. McAvoy can't do anything, and Hampus Lindholm's now hurt. He was playing well in the power play for a minute. And if you look back to when Lindholm was with the Canucks, look at their 2 top blue liners. It's Quinn Hughes and Hronek, who are offensive units. They drive the power play and set guys up, and you're just not seeing that in Boston. So when you're taking too many penalties, your power play can't get going, and you blow third period and second period leads to inferior teams, and then the next game get blown out by teams like Dallas, who are just a class above you. This is how you end up 500. And like you said earlier, the only reason they're even in playoffs is because every other team in their division just can't seem to figure out their own shit. So it just ends up being a mess for them. So
The Bruins right now, I'm huge on special teams can win you hockey games. Their PK right now is currently ranked 26th at 74%, and their power play is abysmal at 9.1%.
That's dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
Jeez.
difference in winning and losing a lot of games.
If you look at those numbers right there, tell me, is Winnipeg the top in the power play? I'm betting Winnipeg's killing at above a 35% success
they're
rate.
at 38%.
Yeah, that's how you know special teams wins you hockey games. When you got a team like Winnipeg who's just killing it on the power play, look at Boston. That's how you look at the opposite when it comes to the teams. And the fact that the Bruins are even 500 with that kind of power play is actually more impressive than you would think, because 9% is ridiculously low.
Is that the worst in the league at 9%?
Yeah.
When you're having a tough time scoring 5-on-5, you need that power play to step up. And I'm a believer that if you have a really bad power play, it takes away momentum. Because even if you don't score on a power play and you get a lot of pressure, that can swing momentum your way. But if you're getting nothing done and you can't enter the zone, you're killing all your momentum. And it takes away the whole point of a power play.
Their expected goals for is like around the middle of the pack on 5-on-5 at 50.12. So going to their 5-on-4 on the power play, they're 32nd in the league, of course. And then on the penalty kill, 23rd. So like even if those are still middle of the pack between 15 and 22, I think Boston's in much better shape. They might have a nice cushion in the Atlantic Division. I think it's a combination of everything. Team defense in front of Swayman. I think it's goal scoring. It's just at this point everything, because right now through 18 games they have 45 goals for and 61 goals against, which right now is not a recipe for success.
So I think the team that has the best chance to push Boston out of that 3 spot's probably Tampa Bay, but they're also pretty inconsistent. So we'll see.
I wish that this, like we've talked about, this Atlantic Division is going to be like a bloodbath. I'm seeing more like a mid-off like we saw at the end of last season, because now you eliminate a team that is a powerhouse. You don't have a certified top 3 teams like you did last season. You have Florida, Toronto, and after that, we're going to see Boston, Tampa, Ottawa, Buffalo, and Detroit win every other game and lose every other game and get that third spot with like 86, 87 points.
And I think if you look at like a good comp for Boston this year, if you guys remember, the Capitals last year snuck into the playoffs with like the craziest goal differential, and their power play sucked, their penalty kill sucked, and they had like 1 or 2 guys who were just playing well. That's the Bruins this year. Pastrnak, maybe it's going to be Marchand, and they're just going to ride into the playoffs. And if they do get in, it's not going to be a fun series to watch if this is the team they're looking at.
I love that comp.
Yeah, and
somehow
also
they'll
you
still
guys
beat
gotta
Toronto
take,
in 7.
Yeah, exactly. If they do get that, but if you look at it, a thing that's big right now is Jim Montgomery doesn't have a contract, which is why people are trying to scapegoat him. So the one thing you can keep an eye out for the Bruins, either they got to trade one of these players, or you're going to see Jim Montgomery get fired pretty soon. So if
I
the
think that'd
Bruins
be a
can't get it going,
mistake.
one or the other.
You think
I
it'd be a
completely
mistake
agree.
to
Fire Montgomery. I think he's a good coach. I think he's one of the best
agree.
coaches in the league.
Yeah,
I think so too.
It's on management here. I mean, it's like a lot of times head coaches get scapegoated for how the team performs on the ice. Sure, maybe some of it's it, but also you have to put out a good product on the ice as well.
Bruins shouldn't have won against Toronto last year. They shouldn't have had the second best, almost best record in the Atlantic last year with that roster. I think he's great with the young guys. He holds the stars accountable like he did with Boston in the playoffs, Marchand at the start of the year. I think he's really good for the team. I just don't think they put the right pieces around him. I think he's made something really special out of these very subpar rosters, at least the past year and this year. Their 2022-23 roster was stacked. So, I mean, anybody probably could have coached that team. So
thank you guys for staying till the end of the video. We appreciate all of you guys, and we would appreciate if you press the subscribe button and notification bell. Join our Discord where we talk hockey 24/7, as well as follow our Instagram for more exclusive content. And we'll see you guys in our next episode.
We'll be right back.